My voice is about shot right now, but there's like 14 of you that watch me, and I'm not going to let you down. If you'd like to make it 15, you know where the button is. So Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, Canada, has been talking tough about the US and Canada economic issues we're having, and I don't like that very much. So it's time for a takedown. Progressive conservative sounds like a dang liberal to me. We don't like progress very much around here. As a matter of fact, we'd like to regress to simpler times, but I digress. Welcome to the doghouse. So to start off with, Canada sends just a ton of energy to the US, and old Doug here is threatening to turn off the lights.
We're ripping up Ontario's contract with Starlink. If the Trump administration follows through on any more tariffs, we will not hesitate to shut off their power as well.
Now remember those words, will not hesitate.
When we spoke to you last month, you said that you rescinded your threat to impose a surcharge on electricity imports to the U.S. Are you prepared now to go forward with that charge if the new tariffs are imposed against Canada and Ontario in particular?
Well, the reason we did that, I want to bring the temperature down. I wanted to sit in front of Secretary Lutnick and get the whole story.
Would you look at that? He hesitated. It's not because he wants to bring down the temperature. He can't afford to do this. Let's be real here. America could snap its fingers and Canada would be a third world country overnight. Don't believe me? So real quick, I'm going to go on a tangent and show you a clip so you can better understand where I'm coming from.
This is the 49th parallel, the longest border between two countries anywhere in the world, and the one that's most often thought of as being the dividing line between Canada and America. It's true that most Americans do, in fact, live south of this line, but so do most Canadians. Canadians like to pretend they're further north than Americans are, but they're really not. In fact, roughly 70% of all Canadians live south of the 49th, in this land shaded red. But we can go even lower. 50% of all Canadians live south of this line in this relatively tiny area shaded red.
So basically, if say we wanted to hurt Canada, we'd go after this part right here, which so conveniently is Doug Ford's very own Ontario. Going back to his threats to cut off the power, check out this chart of all the oil pipelines that feed Canada, specifically Line 9 that feeds Ontario being fed from all this over here on Western Canada. Now you see this Energy East up here? That was a pipeline that got shut down by a bunch of environmental hippies, leaving the only option to go straight through the good old US of A. What was that Sun Tzu said? Cut off the enemy supply lines? Cut off the power, Doug. Double dog dare you. He also threatened to inflict pain on us through retaliatory tariffs.
But I can assure you one thing, we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population.
To the death.
No! To the pain.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
There's a problem with your theory. GDP stands for the total value of all goods and services your country can output. Now, as far as trade is concerned, the US represents about 30% of Canada's GDP, and Canada conversely represents about 1% of America's GDP. Thine stick beeth not large enough. Sun Tzu also said, if you knoweth not the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Now, I'm not sure if this is true, and I will never present something as fact unless I know it to be true, but people have been throwing this out here left and right that this is the tariffs that Canada has already placed on us. Somebody help me here. Is this true? Because like if it is, you do understand the definition of reciprocal, right? Trump only ever asked you to lock down your side of the border. But instead of doing that, you'd rather try to take us on economically?
The old relationship we had with the United States based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations is over.
Because progressive conservative, but definitely a dang liberal. If you like what I do, please leave a like. They really help. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.
You have made me very desperate. You might not be glad that you did.
You get how that works? Ant.
Boot.